Hey, hi, hello, welcome back, Alexandrian Codex. Today, I set out to work on some new shit. Newspapers, specifically, and I didn't do that at all. Didn't get any of that done. Instead, we mess around with politics a little bit today. Now, at a glance, you can't really tell, unless you have a keen eye and you notice, how strange. Some of your voters have socialist ideology, and the year is 1836? Pray tell, Alex, why is that? Well, my good straw man, it's because socialism existed prior to 1836. Socialism existed prior to the unlock date, which is the publishing of the Communist Manifesto, which is noteworthy in its own right. But socialist utopia projects had already been a thing in the United States and in Europe for the last 30 years or so. Fourier and a number of very noteworthy thinkers were alive and well. Fourier would only live for another year after this start date, actually, and had been dedicating their lives to the pursuit of intentional communities, which were they were a form of communism. So too has communism as an ideology been unlocked in 1830 because communism itself predates Marx. Now, I appreciate that communism, in the context of this game, refers primarily to Marxist-Leninism, more so than it does to communism more broadly, in the same way that anarcho-liberalism doesn't really refer to a real group at all, because anarchists aren't people who just want to burn everything down. They're people who want specific things. And anarcho-liberal can be like libertarian. It's too vague. It's too vague. All right. So I've made a few changes, and they're mostly, I mean, some of these changes are going to affect everyone. Like socialists existing in every country at the beginning of the game, if they have the right material conditions, they existed, man. People with these sorts of values and desires existed at this time. They just weren't organized into parties. And oftentimes, as we see in American history, they vote for the next closest party, whether that be the Whigs or the Democrats or Republicans or the Populist Party, or there were a couple more in American history. People settle. Like, you look at the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, you look at the socialists in the United States today, and they settle for the closest thing they can get, unless they can organize substantially. So that's the reality the game starts out with. Now, you'll unlock various socialist political organizations and parties as they historically became available, but it won't be immediate. You'll have to wait a little while. 10, 20, shmini. I can't remember the exact years. Let's take a look. So it'll be 1864 by the first time one unlocks. 1876 is when it'll transition to a different one, and 1901 is when we'll get the Socialist Party of America. We will go from the Working Men's Party of the United States to the International Working Men's Party. Actually, the Working Men's Party is the default name of the Socialist Party. It's been, you might have caught there, commented out, because the Working Men's Party was actually the name of the Socialist Labor Party of America for the first year of its founding, before the majority of the Socialist Labor Party of America split, merged with another organization to form the Socialist Party of America. If this sounds confusing, it's because it is confusing and convoluted, and don't worry about it. Now, I might tweak the start date for when Socialist Party can actually become a thing. I'm going to compare it to... No, I'm not. I'm not going to tweak it because 1864 is the year of the First Internationale, and the First Internationale is really the big first socialist organization. And that's why in the United States in that year, the First Internationale, or the International Working Men's Party, was founded in conjunction with the First Internationale. It's interesting. It's cool. I've also tweaked the values of ideologies in the United States. Socialists are anti-military, secular, full citizenship. This should look pretty familiar. Anarcho-liberal, even if I've commented out the party, I have changed their values. They're no longer pro-military, they're anti-military. They're no longer pro-atheism, they're secular, because they are. Atheists, by and large, are secular. They don't want to tell you you can't have your faith, and they're anti-military or even pacifist in some cases. They're not pro-military. And that's about it. Oh, and fascism and communism, their start dates have been adjusted as well. Communism won't be available in the United States until 1898 as an organized party. Why 1898? Well, the United States, or the Communist Party of the United States, was not founded until 1919, as it split from the Socialist Party of the United States, 1919 being the year of the Bolshevik Revolution, which is what inspired the founding of the party. 1898, however, was the founding of the first Communist Party anywhere, so that's why it's been pushed back to there, just for alt history's sake. In the same breath, fascism has been moved up from 1900 to 1914, because 1914 was the end of the First World War, and I can hear, yes, potentially, you will have a First World War end at that point. The right ingredients for fascism exist, and fascism as an ideology may exist prior to that, but I want to push that back further, closer to its historical precedent. In fact, the United States didn't have a fascist organization, an openly fascist organization, until 1933 with the Silver Legion of America, also known as the Silver Shirts. So all of these little modifications are based in real history, in real fact, in real parties, and I know you want to take your United States in its own direction, but I find that putting constraints on when things are possible helps to inform our narrative and inform our connection with real lived history and the consequences of them. So I'll probably have some events coincide with major events like the Communist Manifesto and stuff like that. But the events that existed prior in the game, these two events, now no longer work the same way. They no longer unlock the ideology because people didn't wait until a German socialist published a book on his brand of socialism to become socialist. Marx didn't invent socialism. Marx also didn't invent communism. He was a communist and a socialist and the first Marxist, but he didn't invent that shit. So these events now, they work the same way and the same constraints as previously existing. Basically, they just give you a boost to socialism or communism in your capital. Is that cool? Is it neat? I don't know. It's something, right? What's very cool is I didn't have to go in and adjust the population ideology. This is just what happens based on the live conditions of the pops. So if you don't want socialists, create a situation where there aren't socialists, my dude. If you don't want people driven to wanting state aid, lower their taxes, make sure they get the resources they need, give them the privileges they want. Very easy. Well, you know, actually not that easy because socialism, it works, baby. In capitalism, it don't. But, you know, yeah. Oh, additionally, I made a change to the 1848 event. 48ers can now boost socialist attraction. Or those, Scandinavian, etc., pops become socialist because they were primarily socialist. And you'll notice prior the event boosted, made them 10% more liberal. I've made it 5% more socialist. So it should have more or less the same effect, making them liberal and then a little bit more liberal. About half of them should stop at liberal and half of them should go to socialist. We'll see if it works. If it works, great. If it doesn't, who gives a shit? It's the spirit of the event that matters and the education of the player that matters. So yeah, that's what I did today. I had set out with the intention to make more events, and, you know, we'll do that later, but I've edited quite a few things to just conform this a little bit more to reality. So yeah, that's it for today. Until later, I'm going to say toodaloo, take care, I'll see you then, bye-bye.